she starts having this unbelievably vivid dream. They have this crown of thorns that they're digging into her scalp, and it feels so real. She just lets out this horrible scream, and then she wakes up. So the girl next to her turns on a light. And when she does, she's like, oh my God, Bella, we have to get you to the hospital. And they're like, what happened to you? Like, nobody knew what happened to her. Well, it would turn out what really happened to her.
Are you serious?
With her dream.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah. So Bella, she grew up in Germany, in this like quaint little village in Germany, and growing up, you know, a big part of her childhood is she would go to summer camp. Like it was a sleepaway camp, you know, for a couple of weeks in the summer. All her friends went, and it was right near their village out in the forest. And it was like, it almost felt like a theater camp. You know, they'd go and they'd sleep away, and there'd be games and stuff. But they'd also put on performances and like plays and stuff. But it was like a really big part of her childhood. And then after being a camper, it was pretty common for folks to become camp counselors, especially in their college years. And that was sort of the cycle of life of this camp. And so Bella, she was about to go to college. It was her senior year, summer, before she's going to college, and she had reached the age where she couldn't be a camper anymore, nor did she really want to be. It was her first year of being a counselor. And she was actually really excited at the prospect of being a counselor, because this is, again, like something that matters a lot to her, and all her friends were going to be counselors as well. And so that summer, on the start of the camp, you know, she and the rest of the counselors showed up early, and they helped set up all the different little cabins in the woods. There's like a little lake nearby, and you know, they set up all the different like stations the kids would be playing at over the week. She like helped prep the camp. And then the kids finally arrived on the first day, and it's like all these happy little kids running around, and Bella and all the counselors. It was great. They got to like give these kids the experience that they had growing up, and it was a multi-day camp. And then at night, on this first night, after the kids all were ushered into their various cabins and were finally asleep, it was tradition amongst the counselors, especially I guess on the first night of camp, to actually not sleep in the cabin with the kids, to like put the kids to bed, and then the counselors, they go out in the woods, they basically party and then crash in the woods. It's like great for the kids. So they abandon the children in the cabins. But they, so the kids are all in their cabin, and she and the other counselors, they head out into the woods. And so the cabins where the kids are, it's all been cleared. And so they barely go into the tree line, and they set up their cots and their tents and stuff. And, you know, Bella was having a great time. Everyone's like having some drinks. They're just like laughing. And at a certain point, you know, they had enough fun, and they decided it was time to go to sleep. And so Bella eventually, alongside many other counselors, falls asleep. And she starts having this unbelievably vivid dream. She dreams that she's in this like, almost like an apocalypse scene, where she's looking out at this city skyline, but all the buildings are sort of like deteriorating, and the ground is mostly sand. Like it's almost like you're out in the desert, and there's like this city in the middle of the desert, but instead of it being an oasis, it's like whatever the opposite of an oasis is, like crumbling, death, destruction. And standing sort of shoulder to shoulder in front of the city skyline, but pretty far away from her, is, imagine like back in the day when armies used to stand and face each other and fight hand-to-hand combat. They would like line up and charge at each other. She was looking at what looked almost like an army of people standing there, not moving, staring up at her, like they were poised to attack her or something. And as she's staring at this sort of apocalypto scene, she realizes that there's two people standing on either side of her, one on either side of her. It's these really big guys that are on either side of her. And she doesn't really know what they're doing, but she's not paying much attention to them. And as she's staring at the people out in front of her, she notices they start to move towards her. They're like walking towards her. And then eventually when they get close enough, she's staring at their faces, and they all have like these horrible expressions on. They look terrifying. Like their eyes are wide, their mouths are like bleeding. It's like this horrifying thing. But as she's staring at this sea of people coming towards her, the guys on either side of her, they turn and they're looking at her now. They're both like basically looking at each other with her in the middle. And she realizes she can't move. She's like frozen. And so she can't even turn her head, but she's sort of looking out of the corner of her eyes at these two huge guys that are not really looking at her. They're kind of looking at each other, you know, across from Bella. And then they pick something up sort of next to her and they raise it up over her head. So both men are holding on to something that's now situated above Bella's head, but she can't look up at it. She's just sort of obliquely aware that they're holding something over her head. And as she's like sort of dreading whatever's going to happen next, they begin to lower their arms. And then whatever they have, it touches her head, and immediately Bella feels this blinding, shooting pain in her head. And it feels so real, it's almost like she can feel it in real life. It's like she's sort of aware she's dreaming, but this feels so real. And it dawns on her finally that she kind of looks up and she sees blood is sort of trickling down her face, that they have this crown of thorns, that they're digging into her scalp and they're pulling it as tight as they can into her scalp. And it's like excruciating for her. And finally, when she begins to be able to move her body again, and right as she does, she just lets out this horrible scream, and then she wakes up. And she sits up and she's totally like, oh my God, like I'm okay. That was a fucking horrible dream. I'm okay. And she's just sitting there, and because when she sat up, she'd made some noise, one of the people next to her, one of the counselors who was asleep, they woke up too, and they're like, Bella, are you okay? Are you okay? It's dark. They can't see anything. She can hear Bella breathing heavily, and she's like, oh, I had a horrible dream. I don't know. And so the girl next to her, the other counselor, she turns on a light, and she shines it at Bella. And when she does, she's like, oh my God, Bella, we have to get you to the hospital. And Bella's like, what's going on? And she reaches up and she realizes her head is bleeding profusely. And she's like, what is going on here? And so like immediately everybody wakes up, like, let's go. And they grab Bella, they throw her in a car and they rush her to a hospital. Bella has no idea what's going on. And when they get there, like she had to get all these stitches to her head, and they're like, what happened to you? Like nobody knew what happened to her. She's like, I was having this dream and it's like weirdly connected to this. Well, it would turn out what really happened to her, that they would later discover after people came forward with what they saw that night, other counselors, when she fell asleep, a fox with rabies walked into the camp and was eating her scalp. And
Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious?
With her dream.
Holy shit.
And so when she got to they treated her for rabies immediately because they didn't know what it was. But sure enough, when the story got out to other counselors, one of the other counselors was like, yeah, there was a fox that kept coming back over to us and I kept having to shoo it away. And so the only explanation is while she was laying there, the fox was eating her head.
Whoa. Whoa.
So yeah, I talked to her, and she came out to a book signing and like signed a book of
No kidding?
Of her story, yeah. Yeah. Can't tell though. You can't tell.
Dude, whoa.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.